Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here with Joel and Adam. And today we're doing our Remembering Cheng Pei-Pei series. This is the first of one of many episodes that we're going to be doing. She passed away July 17th of this year. She's an important figure in wuxia and women's action. She starred in classics like Come Drink With Me, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Lady Hermit. Today we're going to be talking about Dragon Swamp, which is a 1969 film directed by Lo Wei and starring Cheng Pei-Pei. It follows the adventures of a young woman named Qing who ventures to reclaim the jade dragon sword that was stolen from her temple. That's obviously a very simplified version of the stories. I think this was both of you haven't seen this movie before, so I really want to get your reactions to it, and then I can talk about what I think about it. Why don't we start with Adam, and then we'll go to Joel.
Yeah, this is a movie I've really never heard much about before. I picked it up in a box set, a big box set about a year ago. It's been sitting on my shelf. I don't rush to watch all the movies in a box set at once, so I've been ignoring it. And this was great. I'm really kind of amazed that I've never heard more talk around this movie. And I mean, it doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. It just seems really neglected, but it's a really good, solid Shaw Brothers film. I had really everything I want from a wuxia movie. It's just got, multi-generational saga aspect to it. You got great actors. It's a really good cast. I really loved this movie. I was very happy with it.
Yeah, rock on. That is the correct opinion. Well done, Adam. I was testing you. You fast. You'll find the antidote to the poison that I secretly gave you right under your computer chair. Anyway, well, Adam recovers from his chi poisoning. I want to tell you about my opinion about this film, which is that I truly loved this film. I think I was texting you, Brendan, earlier, and I was like, "This is a 10 out of 10 movie." I'm surprised I've never heard of this. But yeah, Adam's spot on there. I'd never heard about this film, and I was actually kind of turned off by the title. I mean, Dragon Swamp? Come on. They called it, like, Dragon Locker Room. It would have been just as equally unappealing, right, by the name. But then you actually start watching it, and you're like, oh, no, okay, it's not really about the swamp. The swamp's just, like, one of the many elements in this movie. They could have called this The Tragedy of the Jade Sword, and it would have been definitely would have been like, what's the tragedy of the Jade Sword? But no, they didn't call it that. They didn't call it, like, what's the main villain's name? The guy who steals it in the first place, Hung Dao or something like that.
Tang Da Chuan.
Yeah, Tang Da Chuan's Folly. I would have been cool with that too. Nope, Dragon Swamp. That's definitely, we gotta get the swamp in there. People are gonna be excited about the swamp.
Well, I understand why they called it that, but go on.
No, I mean, I get why they called it that, but it's a terrible name. Like, dude, sell the sizzle. But yeah, so getting past the awful name, that's the only bad part of this movie. Aside from one effect, which actually I kind of found endearing, which is whenever you actually see the eponymous dragons in the eponymous dragon swamp.
Yes.
I feel like the restoration was really beautiful, and I enjoyed most of the film because of it. That one part, I was like, ooh, I wish I was watching this on a CRTV.
I had it on a not restored version before, and if I remember, that looks just as.
Oh, is it just as bad?
Well, what's charming about that scene is it's very creature feature, right? It's very sort of like right down to how they're acting in the boat, where you just can tell that they're like miles away from it changing. I kind of like it because I grew up watching stuff like that as a kid. So, and Adam might have had a similar experience.
No, I mean, well, I did too, because my mom was a huge fan of like the Sinbad movies. So for me, that's like the ultimate nostalgia bait. And also, I love big monsters in my wuxia. They're pretty rare to see, right? And they don't fight them, unfortunately. But
let's not denigrate Sinbad. The Sinbad movies were actually a much higher.
I'm not denigrating Sinbad. Sinbad's fantastic.
No, what I'm saying is I think you're not preparing the viewer well enough for what we're talking about. Because Sinbad's actually a well done, special effects movie. This was more like stuff that came out of like those like really bad late 50s, early 60s movies where you had the creature in the background being projected on a screen, and it was like way too big to scale.
Yeah, this is like, what was it, Them with the giant mantis? Yeah. It's that. Okay, It is bad. But there is a charm even to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all I'm saying. So that it's still definitely a ding against the movie. But if there's only 2 strikes, and there's small strikes, so like overall, this movie, like, it's amazing. The fact that I only have 2 complaints is pretty amazing when it comes to wuxia films, because like, and especially one this dense. What really got me immediately about this was within 5 seconds of starting it, I was completely invested, because I was like, okay, so this guy has tricked this girl who's fallen in love with him and had his kids to get the dragon saber because he's evil, but maybe he's not because she really loves him. And she gets banished and the saber gets recovered, and then we skip forward. It's like immediately I'm like, I'm there. You got me, Dragon Swamp. I'm in for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then it's like super dense after that. Like there's all these little layers and all these different moving pieces. And despite that density, I was never lost. I was never confused. I always had a clear idea of who everyone was, what they wanted, where they were, what they were doing. And that, just like any wuxia movie, that changed 7 or 8 times, right? But they did so in a careful and clear and well-paced way, so that you're never like baffled by like, who's this guy? I think I had a who's this guy one time, and it was right at the end of the movie where her fellow student shows up. And I was like,
yeah, okay,
I can get this guy, because he's at the very beginning of the film, and he's not like a big presence at the beginning of the film, right? So it took me a minute, but I'm like, oh, okay, he's referencing that they both got the same master. He's going to send a message back to him. Okay, I'm with you, movie. I'm with you.
Yeah.
So even then, I think
what saved me on that moment was that he was wearing. I did remember the outfit he was wearing. I didn't remember the guy, but I'm like, oh, okay, he's part of her order. That's right.
Oh yeah. So yeah, my opinion of this movie, this is a classic of the genre. I'm amazed that like it isn't a bigger name, you know. You always hear killer clans and stuff like that, but like I've never heard of Dragon Swamp. This is a first to me. This is a real sleeper of a classic, but man, it's cool. I think I went on for a little long. You get the idea.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, I recently did a ranking of Cheng Pei-Pei's top movies, and there were a bunch of them that I hadn't seen in many years. And so at the bottom of my ranking, I'm like, I didn't put these on the list because I hadn't seen them in a while, and I'm afraid to like assign a rank to them. And after I did that, I realized, man, this would be like way up at the top of the list. I'm still trying, and now I'm going back to my list, and I'm trying to find a way to get it up to the 3 or 4 spot, and it's actually proving really challenging because there's a lot of good movies in that top.
Cheng Pei-Pei is a legend. Like it's got to be a challenge, dude.
Yeah,
really
I mean, oh, God, the Cheng Pei-Pei. If we're going to talk about Cheng Pei-Pei here, I mean, I loved how different her character. She plays 2 characters in the movie, and I mean, it's not just a matter of having them dress different. There's never a moment where you're confused about whether she's playing the mother or the daughter, even though they are identical in appearance. They're just the way they move, everything about them, their personalities are just utterly. There were moments where I had to do a double take. I'm like, wait, is Cheng Pei-Pei playing both of them? Right? Yeah, it is. Oh, yeah.
Because they even looked.
I didn't realize. I did not realize that was the same actress. Dear Lord in heaven.
Well, there's a few things. Number one, she does a very good job. The style of acting in these movies allows for greater exaggeration. It's almost like the way that I think about it when you watch a Shaw Brothers movie. And I mean this as a compliment. It feels like everybody is Gary Oldman. Do you know what I mean? It's like that. It's like that style of acting, and that's one of the reasons why I like it. And what that style of acting allows you to do is to very clearly play the character who's supposed to be younger than this other character, right? Like they have the mannerisms are just a little bit more easy to pick up on. And I think also the costuming. The fact that Cheng Pei-Pei normally isn't wearing as much makeup as she did when she was playing the mother. Yep. So they look so different, like you were saying. And even how different, even like decisions they made, like when they decide to have her get poisoned, that's obviously a plot thing that happens. But I think in a way it was also meant because they wanted you to know in that moment, this is the mom, and to really emphasize that. And so by having her poisoned, because her youth has been preserved, the poisoning is the way to get her to look a little bit older in that scene. Yeah. You know, so they do a lot of really clever little things like that. Also things to like work around the split screen issue, like having the mother dress as a guy for a good portion of the adventure, which we'll talk about later.
It's also. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say it's all. I mean, the thing is, it's like obviously I've seen a number of Cheng Pei-Pei movies and seen different performances. Like Lady Hermit is a character similar to the mother, where she's a more restrained, kind of on top of things character who's been around a while versus like say Jade Raksha, where she's playing this really really impulsive character, much similar to the. I mean, she's more bloodthirsty than the daughter in this, definitely, but still just kind of a younger, more impulsive, out there character. So it's like I've seen the performances next to each other really brought it home for me, though.
Yeah, what a range! My God. Yeah, I seriously did not know that was the same actress. Wait,
you didn't know it until just now? You
no,
didn't know that?
No, this is you guys revealing it to me. I'm actually stunned.
That was Cheng Pei-Pei. That was Cheng Pei-Pei.
Well, no, just saying, like, I've got to praise her. I've got to praise her even more then, because, like, all right, so they're two different characters in this movie, but both of them have powerful transformations during their arc, which changes the way she plays them. So it's kind of like playing four characters. It's actually that's breathtaking, dude.
Yeah. And it's very, and then she's having dramatic scenes with herself with those two characters, and in a couple of the scenes, like one character's not being 100% honest about everything, so it's like it's very impressive. I mean, I could see how you would not pick up on her being the same person, but
no, that scene where she said, I'll be your older sister and everything. It's just a really moving, emotional, dramatic scene, and she's really doing all of it on her own.
Yeah, next you're going to tell me that. Next you're going to tell me that Dr. Evil and Austin Powers are the same actor. It's insane.
So are you putting us on, Joel? Are you putting us on?
And that second one, yes, that's a joke. But the first one, no, I'm genuinely surprised.
Okay. No, I knew the second one was a joke. But that made me wonder if the first one was also.
I am also a very talented actor, you see.
But I think it's like, Adam, you were saying that a good test of an actor's skill is when you see them on camera alone for an extended period of time. And I would add to that, when you see them on split screen acting with themselves, that sort of really, you can, because it falls apart so easily when they do that, right? Like that's like, I've seen so many movies just fall apart and crumble with the split screen. But this really worked. I think a combination of her acting and just how they handled the process of doing that with what resources they had. I don't know. Yeah, she's, I mean, again, just to comment on Cheng Pei-Pei, this is one of those movies where, I mean, she's great in all the movies leading up to this, but this is the movie where I really feel like it's almost like a little bit of a cutoff where I really see her getting way more confidence with the sword and all of these. Do you know what I mean? Like she's great in all of the earlier movies, but she gets better and better. And this is one where you really start to notice the natural improvement over time that an actor has when they're in action roles. And so I think it's also kind of notable for some of the, like, I don't know, some of the scenes where she's wielding the sword early in the movie in the gambling hall. That was like I thought she seemed especially in control of the blade in those scenes. Do you know what I mean? Things like that. But yeah, so I guess the other issue too with this movie is it's got so many of the classic wuxia tropes in it. We were talking about that before the podcast. It's got the messenger bird, right? It's got it's got the characters dressing up, the women dressed up as men. It's got the blade to rule the martial world that's being stolen, from the temple. It's got like all of these like.
It's also got the scene where the main characters in an inn, and one by one their enemies are all coming in and taking up a seat at the different tables, which is I've seen plenty of times, but in this it's a really good rendition of that scene here.
And I feel like that one is a definite callback to "Come Drink with Me." Do you know what I mean? Like it definitely.
They even have the line. One of the guys calls her to go, "Oh, come drink with me." They even throw the line in there.
That might have been accidental because I think the name of of "Come Drink with Me" in Chinese is like "Big Drunken Hero" or something. I could be wrong. But again, that's still in there. Maybe the subtitle people were. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what he says in the original version, so maybe it still was a callback, and that was the way that they translated the callback. Yeah. But what's interesting about those two scenes is how different of a character Chinger is from Golden Swallow, and to see because Golden Swallow is so serious and so in control of herself and everything around her, and Chinger is a little bit more playful and a little bit more. She's got like a little bit more of a smiling edge to her that just sort of works in the scene.
Well,
So
yeah, she's
naive
amused
too.
as she figures out what they're up
yeah,
to. She's like, "Oh, this is going to be funny."
yeah, she is a
Yeah,
much more naive character. That's true.
yeah. It all. Ah, God, the performance is so good. I actually kind of found her a little bit annoying at the beginning of the movie, just because like she's so upbeat and she's so naive. But like, I don't know. By about that scene, she's starting to take things more seriously. So I was like genuinely distressed when she lost the sword at the end of that scene. I was like, oh man, really tricked her.
Which, by the
Rats.
way, that's also similar to the shenanigans going on in the Come Drink with Me in the evening that she first stays there too.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I think those mannerisms, like the poutiness and the kind, I don't know, just like these very young qualities that you were finding annoying. I think that's something I think you see in a lot of these movies where they're just conveying the character is youthful. That is what they're trying to convey to you, and they want you to know that, and they're gonna.
Well, yeah, it's a believable naivety. It's a believable youthful energy. That's what was so great about the performance. It's annoying, but it's annoying just like, a sprightly 20-something would be,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, God. So I was
And
just having my
also,
typical old man reaction to youth. Like, that's
I have
all.
to point out 20-year backstory. Remember, like, I'm always showing
Yeah,
20-year backstory in these movies, and this one is like
yeah.
right on the nose, 20 years.
20 years.
The, but yeah, what did you? I guess the location of the swamp we should probably talk about, because I know the name is something that deterred you, Joel. But I find the venture into the swamp one of the more fun parts of
I
the
don't know. When
movie.
they get to the swamp, it's actually one of my favorite parts of the movie too. There's monsters in there, which is cool. There's all these neat kung fu traps. Some of the coolest acting in the movie is there.
Yep.
Whenever our heroine is portraying the what was it, the swamp master, whatever his name was. Um, like really cool little things in that one that just kind of add up to a just delightful part of the film. So I couldn't actually ding it for the dragon swamp. I just hate the name Dragon
Dragon
Swamp.
Swamp.
I
Yeah,
think
it's got
just
everything. It's
something
got,
about swamp.
I don't know if it's quicksand, but it's some kind of sand trap in it. It's got were they Komodo dragons? I'm not sure what those were exactly, but
I think so. I'm not super
um,
familiar with the giant lizards. They might have been Komodo dragons. Yeah. But they would be
but
dragons in that case.
I mean, they look like Komodo dragons or monitor lizards or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
Gila monsters or something.
But I thought it was a cool location. I also thought that really brings to life, this is again, it's like that golden age of Hollywood style of filmmaking where you have like worlds built by sets that go back from like the era of like Wizard of Oz all the way up to like Willy Wonka. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where that sort of fades away soon after that. But in Shaw Brothers movies, you still see it. And I don't know. I like when they world build with sets the way they did here, where you're brought into this magical realm in the swamp that she's been
Mhm.
living in for 20 years, and there's something kind of, I don't know, mystical about it or something. It's just very
Yeah, they even have like there's a crossing where you have to get into a boat and go across this water portion, and there's this huge like stone pylon thing with like foreboding red characters on
yeah.
it. Like that's great. You really cross
Mhm.
a threshold into this like underworld. So yeah, it's pretty cool,
Well,
honestly, as a location, and
yeah.
they don't overuse it. It doesn't overstay its welcome, which is lovely.
No, I was thinking about the threshold too. In fact, it's when the mother is sent off to the beginning of the movie. When she goes off, that's the threshold that takes us into the opening credit coming up too. It's just a nice demarcation before you jump forward 20 years.
I think too, like this is a Lo Wei movie, and he's most known for The Big Boss and Fist of Fury, but he also did like The Shadow Whip, and I think we've covered Magnificent Bodyguards, which I think he also directed. Um, but I feel like one of the strengths of this movie is he wrote the script. I don't know what source material it's based on, if any. I would imagine it might be based on a book, but I don't know. But I feel like he always does really good stories in these movies, and I think that the story is something that I think really works in terms of
Hmm.
like Joel used the term dense, and I think that's applicable where a lot of movies called Dragon Swamp, there would have been an adventure involving getting into Dragon Swamp and getting the sword, but there wouldn't have been like a story in the way that you got. Like here, you got like a real proper story, and I love how the way it ends, where you have the Lolier character, who's this really despicable guy But then when he sees his mother, he doesn't even know she's his mother, but he hears her cries in the prison cell, and it like touches something in his soul, and he starts to change. And I feel like that's, to me, the best encapsulation of the story element of the movie is the transformation.
Oh yeah. Well, and he's such a compelling character. You know, he really is a bastard through most of this film, and then he finally like has something that accesses his humanity, and then he comes to like regret everything he's done, and they eventually because he stole the jade saber, like they gotta send him to the dragon swamp at the end. And like I really like that, because it was like, not only is it like kind of a poetic rhyme with the opening of the movie, so it kind of bookends the movie in both cases, but it actually makes a lot of sense that he still got to atone for his crimes somehow. There's actually kind of like this karmic underscore to the whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's also really lovely.
I mean, it's literally the curse of the sword is their family is going to be broken. So it's
well, and and the background of the sword, at least according to subs, is it killed the Buddha, right? Like that was the thing. And so that like there is like this cyclical sort of nature to, or it just does kind of feel like the same situation is being replayed, is interesting. You know, it's also pretty harsh rules for a temple to have, I suppose, banishing you to the swamp for 20 years.
I mean, it did work though. Like you gotta give it that to the rules. Like that did seem to actually work. Like you go to the dragon swamp, you kind of kill the former master, I guess is implied, and then you become the new swamp master. So
someone that's lived in wetlands, it's like that's a lot of insect bites in 20 years of living in a swamp. I gotta say that.
I mean, they've got chi to protect them. They'll be fine.
That's true. Yeah.
That's another thing about this movie. The way they use chi is really interesting. Like the scene with the cups where they boil the wine.
That was a great way to demonstrate the mastery of internal kung fu, where like she would clink the cup and then the tea would like shoot out at them because they didn't have any internal mastery, and the one guy that could match her, like they both boiled because they both had this equal mystical force pushing on it. It's so cool.
I just love the chemistry between Roaming Knight and
cool.
Chinger's character in that scene too, just as they're kind of becoming friends there to an extent during that scene. It's just great.
Well, they had great chemistry in Come Drink With Me, and so I think it was like a natural pairing here. It really works. I agree with you. It works really well.
Roaming Knight's got to be my favorite character in this film, and he's got stiff competition, dude. Like, but he's so good. Like, everything he does is rad. Like, I love everything in that scene. I love later on when he's describing to Chinger what his backstory is. And she's like, why don't you just find somebody else to love? And he's like, no, you don't get it. There's only one of her. Like, that was what a raw line, man. I like even his death scene where he gets stabbed with the saber, and he's like, okay, you can't take it out of me. You put it in, it's staying in.
Which, by the way, I think that was a chi thing. I think that's how he was keeping it in his body.
He just locked it in with his chi. Yeah. Like, I also like that he sort of became the stone and the sword of the stone because the unworthy could not draw the sword from him. So that's kind of fun. It's a great character. He's so good.
He's played by Yu Hua, by the way. What
else is Yu Hua in? Like I know I've seen him in something else.
You know, you'd probably like him, and he's been in a lot. He was in Come Drink With Me, for example, but he was also in Heroes Shed No Tears, and he plays a really interesting character.
He's in Heroes Shed No Tears. That's one of my favorites.
Oh man, I'm trying to remember the guy with the box. I'm trying to remember his name. The guy with the box with the weapons inside of it. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I know who you're talking about then. Yeah, he was.
I'll double check it just to make sure I'm not like accidentally crediting somebody else to the to that role.
Should that have been him? It was a great role. So.
But I mean, he's in like a million genres. He's like in like every movie under the sun. Let's see. Yeah, he played that guy.
Okay, cool. Rock on. Well, he was good. My favorite character in the movie. But God, there's so many. Like every character is so good in this movie. Even the ones that are barely in it, like the abbot who's got like the awesome Buddhist palm technique.
I think that's the director. I think that's Lo Wei. I'm pretty sure.
You know what? That's actually kind of great if that's the director, because it really
that's Master Fan Chung Yu, right? That was the abbot. Yeah, that's Lo Wei.
That's so great. I loved his character. Again, he kind of bookends the film. You know, he's at the beginning and he's in the setup for everything. So he's in the resolution, helps to resolve it. He's at the very ending. Like, it's such good structure.
Yeah, I love how he just comes in and just palms the guy. Like that's
Yeah, like there's when he shows up, fight's over. It's like, okay, we're done with this now. Give me the sword.
Okay, kids. Yeah.
I mean, and it's funny because people would sometimes call that Deus Ex Machina or a Deus Ex Machina, whatever it is. But I think that works. Like that style of ending for these movies, I think actually is effective.
Well, and that was kind of the way things were already going, so he just sort of accelerated it. I feel like
and I mean it's about the inner character drama at the end of that movie too. It's not just a matter of will the bad guy get killed. There's a lot more going on at the end of this movie to be resolved past that point. So it's I think that's another reason it works.
It gets a lot of like the family drama is always effective in these movies, in my opinion. Like, you know, like you can really get a lot of emotional energy out of like, you know, somebody meeting their long lost mother and then the long lost mother being in peril. And then, you know, but they take it to a whole other level where there's like the son that, you know, is like, you know, doesn't even know it's his mom. And then there's like the ferocious ex-husband who, you know, by the end kind of has a bit of a redemptive arc, you know.
But he gives her he undoes his evil. He gives her the elixir that saves her, right? So I'm gonna say that's maybe not full redemption, but I think that's kind of that's in the direction of redemption. He gets to be a war in his next life.
The way he stated it, you know, it's like I'm not gonna. It's like it's not so much that it was redemption as much as I wanted to steal this sword. I really did. I want to take over the Jianghu, but you know what? I've already lost. There's no point in being a jerk about it. It wasn't so much a moral change. It was just pragmatism. It's like,
I guess the saving grace of that character is he didn't do the final FU on his deathbed and not give her the antidote.
Yeah.
Well, you can contrast that with what's her name in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Jade Fox, where she doesn't give out the healing the item at the end. She's like, nah, you're gonna die. I hate everything. Well, and she's like irredeemable.
I was gonna say, I think that movie has a lot of callbacks to this movie. There's that number one. The poisoning definitely feels very similar to how it was.
I just love the bad guys using poison is so great.
Green sword
and the Green Destiny is also something that feels. Now my understanding is that came from there's a wuxia book that's based on. So I don't know how many of those elements are in them, but I think them just being in there with a Cheng Pei-Pei film either way is obvious why. Do you know what I mean? They feel like definite references to her earlier career. And there are scenes in that movie, and we'll probably cover it while we're doing the series, where she will strike poses that you're like, oh, that comes right out of Lady Herman. Or that like there was a scene in this movie where she's doing the thing where she's got the sword forward and she's got her arm out like that, and it's a common pose, but that shot, I'm almost 100% sure is like redone in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
That's weird. I haven't seen that movie in like 15 years, and I can remember every single scene in it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while either.
I haven't seen it since it was in the theater, so I'm looking forward to rewatching.
Actually, that's the one wuxia film I ever saw in a legitimate theater because my mom wanted to go see it.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater too, but I haven't seen it since like 2009. I think is the last time I saw it. So I might have seen it one other time between then and now. I don't remember, but we'll get into it when we cover it. But the desert scene is always I like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but there's kind of this long desert sequence that I find a little bit of a hurdle.
Is the desert sequence dry, Brendan?
It's dry. It's
is it a bit of a journey? Is it?
But yeah, no. There's definitely a lot in that movie that you can see. I feel like this movie. I mean, again, maybe it's coincidence, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff like the like you were saying, the poisoning sequences. Also, I love the miasma poison and the darts to the face. The darts to the face. The Lolier taking the darts to the face is one of my favorite parts of the movie. I love him walking around like this with his face all bloated. It's just,
it's an unexpected element of comedy in the film. Yeah. It's pretty effective. Yeah.
Oh, and he kind of hams it up too, I think. Like, he just makes it work. The other thing I like, the other scene that's sort of like a little bit sort of unintentionally goofy that I like is when she's drawing him back into the room with the palm technique as he's trying to flee.
Well, it's even funnier when you realize that's his mom. You know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's exactly
Yeah.
what your mom would do when you're trying to
Yeah.
get away with something. She'd
You're
grab you
right.
and pull you back. Okay.
Yeah, I have
Uh,
to say this movie does a really good job of like you think it's just got one surprise that you kind of already figured out,
Man.
but then it just keeps kind of surprising you with information.
mhm.
Well, and it's not even what's great about the surprises though is none of them come out of like completely come out of left field, right? Like you can kind of, I bet you could predict most of these surprises if you were like a
Yeah,
Sherlock
you
Holmes
could.
type, you know.
They're
And
all
it's all
they're all
pretty
accounted
self.
for.
Yeah.
They're all
Yeah,
accounted
Yeah,
for.
and they do reveal there's a son at the beginning of the movie. I totally forgot about the son that
That's
he runs off with, but yeah,
it,
if I was on the ball, I should have been thinking, who's the son? Who's
no,
the son?
it's like Carlito's Way, how they show you the ending, but then by the time you get back to the ending, you forget
You
about.
forgot.
I feel
Yep.
like they clearly show him take the son and run off, and so you should.
Yeah, it's
that
like
should
such a
be in
huge
your
part of
head.
the. Well,
Yeah,
it was,
but
but for me, the whole movie, I was just like, well, where the hell did that kid go? And then
yeah,
finally, at the very end, he's like, "Oh, it's you." And I'm like, okay, yeah, okay,
yeah,
gotcha. That's the
and
I
kid.
think Yeah, I think partly too, the reason I didn't pick up on it being the kid is because they hold the master back till later in the movie.
Yep.
I was thinking of the Lole characters being, they kind of tell us later on, but I was thinking he's the guy behind getting the sword. So I was thinking maybe he's the father in disguise, not the son in disguise, which was to set me off on the wrong path too.
Oh yeah, because that was the other question I had is like, wait a minute, that guy stole the jade saber and then he just left with a kid. He's like consolation prize.
Yeah.
It feels like it vanishes with the whole movie, but actually, that's the reason it gets stolen again because he's trying the same plot.
yeah,
It makes
yeah.
such perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's
Ah,
they do a
such
real
good
again.
structure.
It's the storytelling. You by the time you get to the scene where they're at Lolier's abode, you've forgotten about all that stuff. Like you just don't. You forgot to like for maybe the first 20 minutes of the movie, you're still looking for the guy who ran off with the kid. But after that,
Yeah.
you just kind of forget about it. So I
Well, you
think
kind of realize that the movie has got more information that demands your attention because there's
Yeah.
again there's enough density to this film that you're like, okay, what's going on now? What is this about? But it's not confusing. You simply naturally lose that thread.
Yeah.
It's really well crafted.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Also, we haven't even talked about the martial arts really in this movie.
Damn, they're
Fight
good.
scenes.
Damn, they're
Again,
good in
it's
this movie.
this is we should say this is again more of a classic era. It's not like I guess you could say like if you're looking at more like newer styles, you might point to like King Hu or Cheng Pei or things like that. But this is a little bit more of the swashbuckle sort of mid 60s.
Yeah, it's definitely a swashbuckling style of movie.
Yeah.
But you know what? Again, so was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and that was a great
Yeah.
movie with great fight scenes. You know, so yeah, I love the fight scenes in this movie, and I love them because they're all very memorable. Like they all have a reason to be in the movie. They move the plot along, and they also like do really cool stuff. Like I really like the
Yeah.
one where Swamp Master in disguise is in the courtyard, and she's like fighting everybody and paralyzing them, and then Master, what is it, Master Yu is his name, shows up and he's like, they didn't recognize a great person, please come in. And he's being all polite and obsequious. And so to demonstrate her power, or I guess his power to the onlookers, she picks up both of the lion dogs, these huge stone statues, and just casually like moves them over back to the place where she had them initially. And like that looks really convincing. Like it's clear
Yeah.
they're like cardboard or something. Like, there's no way a human being could lift a stone statue that big. But like they do such a good job with like the layering of the sound effects that
Yeah.
like and she does such a good job acting out their heft where she has enough strength but they're still really heavy, that whenever you can hear like the stones scraping on the ground when she's putting it down, it's actually a really convincing effect. I love that, I love the last fight scene, which is an absolute catastrophe where
Yeah.
everything's on fire. And I was watching that and I was like, how did they safely get this fire here? There's someone had to get burned in these takes, because this isn't a modern movie. Those sets were burning. There's like actual smoke from the fires they lit on set that they're all just
Yeah.
choking through as they're doing these amazing choreography stunts. So, God, that was good. Jesus, there's so many good fights in this film. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, I
The
mean the infight. I love the way
Yeah.
they set it up. Like as I said, all the characters come over, but the way they're showing some of their technique ahead of time. Like the fisherman comes in, of course, his fishing pole is going to be used later. Then you got the guy with the axe who chops the meat with his axe. It's just laying this groundwork for the fight scene you're about to watch. Like, ooh, I can't wait to see him use that axe in the fight. It's
so
yeah,
good. There's a little
it's
guy over there with a
strong.
heavy bowl. I want to know where that goes.
Yeah.
No, that was a very good scene. I like the pacing of that scene and the build up and
Yeah.
and like you said, like the characterization. It's something like when I run wuxia campaigns, one of the things that I've taken from scenes like that is the ability to instantly characterize an NPC by just having them show up and pound the ground with a weapon or demand that somebody fry a fish for them or whatever, whatever it is. Like there's you can convey a lot with that kind of just a moment
Imagine
of
the
time.
stones on the guy that's like, I brought my own food to your restaurant, cook it for me.
No, I was thinking about that. I would be that guy. If I was like a martial hero and had the thing about these settings, the reason these characters are always like this, in my opinion, is they're all powerful enough that people don't mess with them. They can say, hey, you do this and you're going to do it. And so the guy that's like a little bit OCD about his food and doesn't want other people touching it, maybe he's afraid he's going to get poisoned or whatever.
Well, you would be a chicken, though. It's like, cook this chicken and make sure there's no bread in your kitchen.
But no, I'd probably want the fish. Fish has a lot of protein, so if you're on the road training, not a fan of the fish.
I don't know. I love the way you
He's
think.
Midwestern. He's not a coastal boy like us.
Wait a minute. I live in Alaska, dude. I eat fresh salmon wherever the hell I want.
You're probably like dining on king crab and all these delicacies, or
only if I vanquish the martial heroes here and take their great fishing spots.
But I don't know. But I like that the way that they do that. That they just like you said, a character has a bowl and he wants it filled with wine, and it's drawing attention to the weapon that he's going to be using. It's just a very effective technique.
It is. It's fantastic, and it also distinguishes them from her method because she's all subtle and she's always hidden. She's got this very light foot, agility based approach to combat, and so they're all swaggering around our weapons are heavy, and bragging, and she just spanks all of them. They don't have a prayer against her and that sword, dude. It's a turkey.
She even seems to be retreating because she's like. They take her food and she's like, well, okay, no worries. I'll just eat the vegetables with the rice. It's like she doesn't really let it phase her, and she's not trying to retake the ground that they've taken. And so it's a very interesting scene. But yeah, I think the fights in this are really good. And again, I always tell people if you think it's too swashbuckly and you're thinking more in terms of 80s or 90s wuxia, just pay attention to the footwork, and I think you'll get a better appreciation for what you're seeing, because a lot of the stuff that we're accustomed to seeing, it comes from great performances, because you do have magnificent people like Jet Li and all that in these kinds of movies doing amazing physical performances. But these are movies where you're seeing the person's whole body, and so that means and they're not edited down in the same way as the later martial arts movies. So you're getting a more honest picture of the performance. And so
the choreography of this is one of the things that really was breathtaking to me. There's that fight scene where they first go into Yu's mansion, and he realizes he's kind of outmatched, even though he's got the Jade Dragon Saber, and so he summons all of his henchmen. And one of the most incredible things happen. They have this beautiful above pan wide shot thing, and all of his goons in a circle are matching his footwork with their swords out. So they're all doing this incredible choreographed encircling.
There is a movie, I think it's another Lo Wei movie. I think it's either Raw Courage or The Golden Sword. I don't remember which one it is. I might have the titles wrong. But they do these things in the movies where they have choreographed movements of men in circles, and it looks really beautiful. They'll be they're almost like battle formations, but on a wuxia scale, like a wuxia skirmish scale. And in those particular movies, I remember them looking really good. but yeah, that kind of stuff, that coordinated, it's like dance-like. There's like a dance-like quality to it. And I think, again, just to bring it back to Cheng Pei-Pei, her background, I guess she studied ballet in, I think, the equivalent of high school, and she also got a lot of, Shaw Brothers gave her a lot of dance training, is my understanding. And I feel like that really shows in these movies, where
she has a breathtaking grace in these films. The way she moves is mesmerizing.
Yeah, she's very poised and very, and I like too, there were a little bit more kicking in this one too, on top of the sword play, which I thought was good. I like when they incorporate kicks, because she can kick really high when they ask her to, but oftentimes she's a little more focused on the swords. But yeah, I think the dance element of the movement is one of the things that makes it really work. Yeah, so I don't know. You also wanted to talk about the daughter being dressed as a man for the first half, and then the mother being dressed.
I thought that was neat. And maybe I don't have a ton to say about it, but I think that it does something cool on a couple of levels. Number one, I like that the daughter early on, is it Chi-Er? Is that her name? I can't remember.
Ching-Er, I think. And I think the is just like a thing that you add to the end of a name when somebody is younger or something, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. But yeah, no, like, okay, so she unconvincingly, and this is like a wuxia trope, she unconvincingly masquerades as a dude throughout the first part of the movie to disguise the fact she's a woman. Every wuxia film does that, right? It's such a genre trope that you don't even see it. I mean, but like, I've never found it particularly convincing, because like they're just clearly women. They have female voices. Yeah. Like they have female features. Like there's no way that's a dude. And everyone's like, young man. I'm like, really?
Well, and here's the thing: you don't know if they're just being polite and letting the person say face, or if if the wool has been pulled over their eyes.
Right. I feel like if it were me, like, and I'm some innkeeper, and I'm like, things are going swell at the inn, and a young quote unquote man with a clearly cursed sword comes just like daintily walking into my establishment, and they're like, "Men, wine, please," and you're like, you know what, everybody, staff, huddle in. We're just going to go with it, okay? We're just going to go with it. It's going to minimize the property damage. That's a man. We're all going to say young man. Everybody on the same page? Okay, go. Like, I think you're right. I think there's some element of that. But later on in the film, she meets her mom, who's masquerading as a swamp master. And I think they actually have a male actor doing it, right?
They do. And he's been in a number of things, that guy. That was Tung Lee.
But wisely, they choose an actor that has a very similar, like, long, willowy kind of body type, and even his head is kind of shaped like hers. So, like, you could sort of see it, right? Like, they actually have a similarity. And, like, right at the end of that scene, I was kind of, like, looking at her, I'm like, wait, I know for a fact that's got to be a lady in disguise, right? Like, that's what's going on.
They make him look uncanny. They make him look
uncanny. They really do. I don't know what they did, but they actually, they made it so that even I was just like, ooh, is that actually the actress?
That was brilliant.
No, that was brilliant. Was the beard a real beard? Because it kind of, like, just the...
Yeah, there was something about it.
I think almost any time you see a beard in a wuxia movie, it's a fake beard. But I think they made a fake beard that looked like a fake beard.
Yes.
Or that's what's so clever about it, is it's a male actor, so they actually do change actors. But then they put on, like, something about the costuming and the hair and everything that they do,
the body language, everything,
just enough. Yeah, there's something about it where it's off just enough where you know to suspect that's not
right. Something really in my brain was like, something's going wrong here. But it duped me, right? It actually duped me, and I like that the film had the presence of mind to be like, let's introduce this trope in one way with the less skilled character, and then with the more skilled character, let's reintroduce the trope in a more powerful and convincing way. That was awesome. And that's also her mom. So the characters are kind of doing the same thing, just with a 20-year gap in skill. So that communicates it to you on this wonderful, like, internal level whenever you're watching it.
No, that's a good point.
It's a filmmaking.
I mean, one thing I liked about that scene too is you have the lead up to when the Swamp Master comes out to meet her, and they have that one scene in the bedroom where someone goes in to tell the mother, and you don't see her face, but I was like, oh, that's got to be the mom. That's who this is. And then the Swamp Master comes out, and I'm like, oh, I wanted to see her talk to the mom. I was waiting for this meeting, and you're blocking us by having the actual Swamp Master come out right away. But then I'm like, oh, I was fooled. Okay,
Well, and it was perfect because that's why they put the mom there in that scene so that you would like it everything is perfectly placed.
It is, because they build your expectation. They seem to thwart it, but actually they don't. And so his question to what was his name, the gentleman swordsman guy, the question to him was like, why don't you just abandon her? She clearly betrayed you. And he's just like, nah, man, I'm not about that. I'm crazy about this girl. And like, I like the Swamp Master's reaction where he's kind of taken aback about it, like pleased, but also kind of struck. And like, because when you first watch that scene, you're like, why does this dude care? And then like 35 seconds later, you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. There's so much of that kind of sleight of hand of this movie that's really satisfying.
And they also show how she does it, which I like. They have her use like the I forget what it was that she put in her mouth. It was something from one of the dragons. It was like their vocal cords or something.
I don't remember. And it looked like a little honeycomb, but whatever it was, it worked. Oh, it was whiskers. It was their whiskers.
The whiskers. Oh, and then she had the human face mask, which I presume is the actual skin of the old Swamp Master. I don't know.
It's called a human skin mask in my subtitles.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So she must have taken the face of the former skin mask. Like,
we're not sure if that's metaphorical. So it looks like human skin, and it's a mask. Therefore, it's a human skin mask. Versus, I peeled his face off. I don't know which one it is.
Go with she peeled his face. I like the backstory of she killed the Swamp Master and took his face.
I agree.
Personally, I like that one the best myself too. So we're gonna go with the most horrifying interpretation.
Yeah, it's unanimous.
Well, she kept it as a trophy. I mean, wuxia heroes keep trophies.
Just let me throw that out. Shipped as a trophy. Anyway, wuxia heroes.
Nothing on Human Lanterns. Come on.
But yeah, Human Lanterns is definitely a much higher level of that kind of thing. But I guess what I'm saying is when a wuxia hero does it, it's not a serial killer move. It's a whole other thing.
It's like a bragging thing. I know that sounds weird, but it's really not any different than just taking his sword or his techniques.
Yeah, characters aren't serial killers; they're mass murderers. It's a totally different thing.
It's like
it's not Jack the Ripper; it's Napoleon.
It's like when the character says your hand belongs to me now, and they cut it off. It's like that kind of a thing.
It's more of a counting coup thing. I know that sounds weird, but it's true.
No, it totally makes sense.
But yeah. So I don't know. Any other thoughts on this movie before we head out?
I never thought I'd say this line in my life, but go watch Dragon Swamp. This is a classic of the genre. And you know what? I just did a search for Dragon Swamp. I was like, I'm going to check out the IMDb page on this. And the first result isn't the IMDb page. The first result is your blog post, Brendan. So clearly people are sleeping on this movie. Read Brendan's blog and go watch Dragon Swamp.
You know what's funny? I haven't read that blog entry since I wrote it. I know that I made it in 2014 because I looked up the date before I did a little podcast, like 10-minute recording on this a couple of nights ago. But I don't know what I said in that, so I'm curious if my opinion now lines up with my opinion, because that was the question I had when I was ranking it. I remembered liking the movie, but I didn't remember well enough to know where I would put it on a top 10 list. And so I'm curious if I go back now after that we've done this, I can go back and read it. It's literally been 10 years, so I'm very curious.
I got to say my last thing too, just to back up Joel. It's just I also want to say where you can watch it. It's on Shout Factory. Yep. Obviously, you can get the whole box set that contains it. But you go to their streaming service. They do have that channel on Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, let's go that free trial of Shout Factory and watch this, because I'm just amazed this movie is not better known. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's worth checking out. I think also another thing worth mentioning is this does have a bigger adventure element to it than some of the other wuxia movies, and I think that's another selling point of the film. So it's funny which movies last and which ones don't, and which ones end up no longer being available. You can watch it now. What is it on Shout with a free trial, right? Is that how it works?
Yep.
Adam?
Well, yeah, or just subscribe. But I actually have a Shout
honestly,
Factory subscription. But
yeah, I'm probably just gonna keep my Shout Factory subscription. Like
It's
they've
great.
got Mystery Science Theater 3000 like sold
Yeah,
for $7 a month.
it's a great streaming service. There's no reason not to keep it.
So yeah, and we're going to be back on with more Cheng Pei-Pei movies. We want to give like a full breadth of her films, but we didn't want to go back. We had done Come Drink with Me like 4 times on the podcast. We've done Golden Swallow 2 or 3 times, and so
Golden Swallow's really good.
It is really good. I thought you didn't like Golden Swallow.
No. I don't like Silver Rock. I love Golden Swallow.
Okay.
We need to do Jade Raksha at some point. That's a good
Jade
one.
Raksha would be another good one.
I don't know if I've seen Jade Raksha. I may have to do Jade Raksha.
That's also on Shout, and that's a really good Cheng Pei-Pei movie to do.
Yeah.
We'll have to go through a list of what movies we think we should do, and then we'll sort of narrow it down. But yeah, definitely go and watch some Cheng Pei-Pei movies. Again, most people probably know her from Come Drink with Me. That's probably where most people are exposed to her.
I highly recommend Come Drink with Me.
Well, the beauty of being exposed to her at that is by the facial expressions alone. If they go back and watch Come Drink with Me, they'll start to recognize when she flashes her eyes a certain way that it looks familiar, and that and it'll slowly dawn on them who they're watching. Yeah, so definitely check out her her earlier movies that we haven't covered here, and Come Drink with Me is probably a good starting point. Yeah, so I guess we'll head out, and until next time, we will talk to you later.